A lot to comment on now. With me, Sean Spicer, former White House press secretary. And Sean, good evening to you. There was a lot that was spoken during that meeting there at the White House that is ongoing at the moment. We'll see what decisions they make on Syria. First, on the FBI raid, what do you make of that tonight? Do you see it also as a witch hunt, Sean?
Well, I think it's an escalation on both fronts, Bill, to be honest with you. I mean, you see the raid of a private attorney to the president tonight by the FBI. That is definitely a major move. And then the president's reaction tonight, as John Roberts reported, I think definitely the words that the president chose tonight to describe his feelings about that raid definitely raised the stakes. So I think you've seen two moves, both escalating the situation. And I don't think that we've heard the last of the president's feelings on this.
Yeah,
I'll leave the legal analysis
Go ahead.
I'll leave the legal analysis to Judge Napolitano, but as a layman, I will tell you that I think that when you're going to raid the private home and offices of the president's personal attorney, that better be real good.
You worked with the president quite closely for a good amount of time. Do you think now is the time that he ditches Bob Mueller? Do you think it's at that point?
Well, look, I hope that I think the president's point that he made early on in his comments, that there has been no evidence of collusion. I think what the president has to hopefully be reassured by his counsel is that so far this is not about him. It's never been about him, and that his job is to make sure that he stays focused on governing the country and stays focused on implementing his agenda. And, you know, we can't speak to everyone around him what they may or may not have done, but we have to let the process play out. And so I would urge the president to listen to his counsel, and my guess is that his counsel is telling him that this investigation continues to not focus on him or collusion, and since he can't speak to the actions of others, let the special prosecutor, let the FBI play this out, see what evidence they have before taking it a step too far. But I think that the quickest way to wrap this up is to let them do their job and let the pieces fall where they may.
Do you think the tendency is greater or less tonight that he sits down with Bob Mueller then?
Well, you know, again, I'm not an attorney in this. I think that it's a rabbit hole to go down if the president were to sit down with him. So of all of my legal training, which extends, goes to watching Law and Order, I don't think it's a good idea for him to sit down and do this, because once you sit down, you don't know where it ends up. That being said, I think the president knows that he hasn't done anything wrong. He's made his position clear on multiple occasions, and I think he wants to see this thing wrapped up and sees a conversation with Mr. Mueller as the quickest way to do it. So, you know, ultimately, this is going to be a decision that he and his attorneys make on what is going to wrap this up quicker, sooner rather than later, and in a way, in a manner that, you know, ensures that the president doesn't get stuck going down 800 rabbit holes on non-germane topics.
He brought up the Clinton email matter, too. When you were with him, how much of that bothered him? And was it a daily thing, or how would you describe that, Sean?
I don't know that it's a daily thing, but it's not just him. I think there's a lot of people on my side of the aisle, Bill, that are sort of continue to scratch their heads and say, so far you've seen an investigation that didn't have to do with collusion go on and on. My hope, by the way, is that this investigation continues to be focused very broadly on Russian interference. We continue to see evidence of that. I think where the president needs to sit back and listen to his attorneys and say, this investigation hopefully is more about the broader meddling of Russia in our election, and that they're going to come back and look at those bad actors like the Russians that they indicted, and that hopefully will be the focuses. With respect to Hillary Clinton, I think there's a lot of people who continue to wonder how you can have that many infractions of the law, have that many law enforcement officials claim that there was a problem and then see no action. I think it's a huge frustration.
Yeah. How much of this is a distraction inside the West Wing today?
Well, I think it's obviously a bit of a distraction. You've got a big issue. He's sitting there around that table with all of those top military leaders dealing with how to react to the actions that were taken in Syria this weekend, that vicious and horrible chemical attack. And they're sitting around trying to discuss what the proper role of the United States is in ending that kind of atrocity. and to be distracted by this isn't helpful to anybody. It's not helpful not just to the staff there in the West Wing, but frankly to the country as a whole. We've got big issues happening not just domestically, but around the world, and I think our focus as a country and as he as a leader needs to be on making sure that we're fighting for humankind around the world.
Yeah, Sean, there's another topic that I wanted to get to quickly. There was a piece on 60 Minutes last night that talked about Russian hackers in the Illinois state election system. And the piece reports that the administration, the Obama administration, got together with all the heads of states, all the elections officials across the country, and gave them a warning. Was your campaign ever given information from the Obama administration that there were Russian hackers that were trying to gain access to an election system in any state in the U.S.?
Look, here's what happened. In October of 2016, officials from the Department of Homeland Security gathered representatives or made an invitation to representatives from the Republican National Committee, the Democratic National Committee, the Trump campaign, and the Clinton campaign. I, as part of the Republican National Committee, went into the DHS for a private briefing in which they assured us that while people were trying to meddle with the election, the integrity of the vote was sound, and they asked us to go and to make sure that we continued to convey publicly that our election system was sound and that no one could hack it, and they asked us to express support of this. So it's very interesting that now that they're telling everyone retroactively that they were calling on these alarms, because that's not what they did in October of 2016 when they called us in to reassure us of all of the steps that were being taken and that there was no threat that was being posed to our election system, and that they had asked us to publicly share that degree of certainty with the American people after the vote.
So why would they not tell you? And I got to run. I need a quick answer. What explains why they would not explain that to you with greater clarity as you relay that to us tonight?
Well, because I think that they thought, number one, that Hillary Clinton was going to win, and they wanted us to make sure that we supported that ultimate decision. And number two is because I think a lot of this is Monday morning quarterbacking now that people are critical of how they handled it. But at the time, that certainly wasn't the message they were sending to us and to others around this country.
Okay. Sean, thank you for your time today. We're going to get to Syria in a moment, too. So, Sean Spicer, thank you for being with us here and reacting in real time to the news from the White House. Thank you.